Good morning. Morning. Hey, hey. How's it going, everybody? This one's empty. How's it going? Gearing up for cookie booth season right now. Oh, what's that? Is that for like Girl Scouts or something else? I never did Girl Scouts as a kid, so I am not all up on it, you know? Hello, hello, everyone. Hey, Liz. What's up? What's up? Are you gonna make the coffee, or what are we talking about here? You think? Thank you. She is in bed with her dad. Savory oatmeal is so good, Liz. It's so good. Did you put the chili crunch in it? That's really the thing. And I love you too. Girl says it was a rough memory. Oh, dude, it feels not good. It's literally the best. I've been making it a lot right now because oats are so good for lactation. So I've been having a lot of oatmeal. Liz, do you want me to give you my other favorite oatmeal concoction that I made recently? Hey, Kimberly. So it's not a savory one. It's technically a sweet one, but sort of. So I've been trying to just like pile on everything that's good for lactation. I know she wasn't born today. I know. Wait, is today your birthday? Wait, what is today? What is today? What's today's date? Is today the 10th? No. Today's the 11th. Happy birthday! Oh my god, I didn't even know what day it was. Oh my god, you guys, it's Liv's birthday. I had no idea what day it was because mom brain. It's not because lack of love for them. It's lack of brain cells, lack of coffee, perhaps you might say. Yes, the baby is hanging with her dad. I wish you could see how cute they look right now. They're having baby daddy time right now. It's Liv's birthday. Everybody who's on here should go boost their account for their birthday. Fantastico. Looking at she is an independent girl. It's true. It is. It's true. She is a strong, independent young lady, my daughter. Yes. She may only be 2.5 weeks old, but she is an independent young girl. She's getting her first photo shoot today. So Liv, at least you'll get some behind the scenes. Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna get behind the scenes first photo shoot content. So that will be fun for you. It'll be fun for all of us, actually. She's gonna get dressed up like a princess today. Could you just die? She's gonna be a princess. I would expect nothing less. So she's gonna have a couple different photos today. Some are princess. The baby is sleeping. Yeah, she's with her dad. They are cuddled right now. They're having cuddle time. She loves her daddy. I was like, do you want me to take her with me to book club or do you want to keep cuddling? And he was like, I want to keep cuddling. So I obviously left her with him because they deserve their cuddles. Works and Killer Not Softly just joining for the morning chat. Oh yes, we're excited too, Amanda. I hope you're catching up on YouTube because the book is so good. I'd hate for you to miss any of it because it really is a fantastic book. Cuddle time is necessary. Yes, 100% agree. He's a really good dad, you guys. He's so good with her. So it's a win. Since they're cuddling, I have been having a very productive morning. I got really hungry, so I needed to come out and make a snack. And while my snack was, well, I was making an English muffin and it needed to toast. And while it was toasting, I made overnight oats and chia pudding for myself with like chia seeds, flax seeds, oat milk, and stuff like that. So hopefully we are increasing our production. That is the goal. So the only thing about today that's going to be a smidge of a struggle is that the place where we are getting baby girl's photos is about an hour away. So that means we have to drive an hour twice with an infant in the car. She's usually pretty good in the car once it gets going. She doesn't like the like start and stop of it all, but she's like good on the highway when you're like driving somewhere. So cross your fingers for us that she survives that. And by survives, I don't mean literally survives. I mean like doesn't scream at me, you know, which like they do scream sometimes. She's not a big screamer. She doesn't yell very often, but when she does, man, it breaks my heart. All right, see you later, Liv. Have a happy birthday. Hey, Grayson. Baby girl had to have her first vaccine yesterday. I cried. I'm gonna be honest with you, I cried. I did the thing. I cried. Really, Liz? Yeah. I mean, Zoe was pretty good in the car, I'm not gonna lie. She was pretty good. If she cries on the way there, just take it as a good thing. It helps sleep better for the pictures. That's a good point. That's a good point. She will be worn out. It hurts us more than it hurts them. She did get a Care Bear Band-Aid, though. She got a Care Bear Band-Aid. It was very cute. But it did break my heart. Like, I know she has to have it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't break my heart. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I forgot my pillow. Oh, well. We'll live without it for one day. All right. Let me just get this on the tripod. Say hi to the Monstera. It is so tough listening to them cry. She did get to see her aunties yesterday. It's true. We FaceTimed with Auntie Grayson and Mabel. And it's funny because like, I think people think I'm lying when I say she almost never cries. And then we got on a FaceTime with them and she was so sad the whole time. Not because of them, but probably because like residuals from, you know, when it's like a vaccine day, they're a little off their raw, you know what I mean? They're like not themselves for a minute. And so she like cried the whole FaceTime because she was uncomfortable. And then she had a poopy diaper and then she was hungry. And I was like, man, they are going to think I'm a liar and that you actually cry all the time. She doesn't though. She never cries. It's so weird. She's not a crier. Ah, so good. All right, where are we in the grand scheme of this book? Hey Kristen, listen, I'm off my game when I get a vaccine, so I can't. Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. That's a fact. Hey, Catherine. Yeah, exactly. So like, and they're so little and it's so much for their little system to process. You know what I mean? I can totally understand why it makes them feel just like a little gucky for the day, you know? I don't feel good when I get mine either. How did you do with the needle yesterday? I think I remember you have issues with. Yes. So I held her while she got her vaccine because I refuse to not hold her while she gets them for the rest of forever. And I just like held her little hand and looked at her face, and I didn't really look at the needles. I do have issues with needles, but it's really important to me that she feels like cuddled and supported. I have bad personal childhood experiences with needles, and I don't want to perpetuate that in her. So I just held her hand and like talked to her and stuff so that she would not mentally get the same issues that I have. You know what I mean? Comment filtered. Becca's here. Oh yes, Becca on her old phone. Yes, exactly. She had just nursed right before it, so we didn't know that she was gonna get one. I forgot that she needed one at the 2-week appointment. So it wasn't like I had just nursed her in the middle of the appointment, because after she gets stripped down to get weighed and measured, she has a she hates that. She does not like to be naked. Yes, definitely, Amanda, like hands and feet and the cute little setups, 100%, 100%. You know, I had to feed her after her weighing because she was so upset, you know. So she had just eaten, and then they had the vaccine was at the very end. So I was like, well, you know, but I did cuddle her, and she actually got over it really quickly, you guys. Like, she was fine. I don't know what my issue was. You know what? Tattoos are not even remotely the same. I don't know if you're ever planning on getting one, Anya, but it's not the same. Like, so like a needle when you're getting a shot or an IV is like puncturing your skin, and also the environment of getting a shot or an IV is very different than the environment of getting a tattoo. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So the needles that they use to do tattoos aren't really just like going and then like injecting ink into you. It's more of like a scratching motion across your skin like this. So like, for example, if you're like, let's talk about this tattoo. For example, it's really hard for me to turn this. Yes, scratchy versus invasive. That's exactly right. So like these parts here that need to be shaded, it's like 3 tiny little needles that go back and forth like that kind of. And it's like a little bit of a vibrating, but also the vibe when you're getting a tattoo is like, man, we're going to do this cool art, and like something's going to be amazing today. Like look at all the colors, and it's cool, and you're there with someone that you've been talking to, and I don't know, it's just, yeah, it's just a very different like mindset to be in, as opposed to I think I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure a lot of you, I mean, a lot of people have this, so it's a lot of people have the same issue. I have white coat anxiety, which is where any nurses, any doctors, whatever, no matter how nice they are, give me complete like you know what I mean? I have to explain to other medical people that they're completely different needles. It's like not even remotely the same. Tattoo needles are never puncturing your skin and like going into like your muscle or anything like that, the way that like, okay, I've got a sweatshirt on, but you can kind of see here. Do you see this mark? Like, my baby is almost 3 weeks old, and this is the residual mark from an IV I got when they had to take, not an IV, sorry, that's wrong. They had to take blood after she was born to like make sure I was okay or whatever, which is totally fine. I didn't argue them or anything like that. But like, why do I still have a mark almost 3 weeks later? Like, they were rough. Like, in the moment I was like, and like it hurt. And I have a really high pain tolerance. I just gave birth to a baby with no medication, completely pain medication free, and I survived that. And the thing in my arm felt like it hurt almost more. So like, they're just not, there's some people, not everyone, there are some people who work in the medical industry who are not in it to make you comfortable. And I've never had a tattoo from someone who wasn't in it to make you comfortable, because it's their art, it's their calling, you know what I mean? And a lot of nurses and doctors also feel like it's their calling, but maybe some are just inexperienced. I mentioned in my in my birth story video how I felt like the doctor that was on call to give birth to our baby, like, I gave birth to the baby, she just caught her, but I felt like she just like couldn't have cared less. You know what I mean? And I will tell you guys, her portion of our hospital bill alone, insurance covered most of it, so don't think that I'm paying this much, but like the doctor's portion of our bill, we just got it yesterday, Over $11,000 for the like 5 minutes that she spent in the room with us. $11,000. $11,000. Again, insurance is paying most of it, so it's fine, but like, that's a lot of money to not have good bedside manner. You know what I mean? Like, you're making so much money. Yes, comfort. We did get it sorted, and it did end up showing in network, Liz. Yeah, so that worked out. Yeah, Sloth is like freaking out because Sloth lives in Canada, you guys. And so she's like, oh, what to this $11,000? That's not even the hospital part, Sloth. That's just the doctor's portion. Just the doctor on call, her name. The hospital has its own line on the bill with the room and all that stuff. The doctor alone billed for $11,000. I think she was in the room with us between the 2 appointments that we had with her for a maximum of 10 minutes. She did catch the baby, which I'm grateful for because I've heard of some stories where people dropped the baby, which terrified me. And she did stitch me up, but that's all she did. When she came to check on me the next day, she didn't even take her purse off her shoulder. $11,000. I was like, damn. I went into the wrong line of work, apparently. Tattoos are great. I have nothing but good things to say about my tattoo artists. Really, Jen? Were you terrified? Oh my God, that would have terrified me. My hospital for birth and the care was $65,000. So far, our bills between all of the things are around $30,000. But you had a C-section, so yours would be more expensive for that reason. I didn't have that. And I declined like all the medications and things like that. So they weren't allowed to charge me for any of those things. Obviously, if I had a C-section, I would have needed all the medication. They also have so much debt to pay the training. That's true. They do have a lot, yes. It was so fast. They were like, oh, we'll get here. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he was NICU. Yeah. It was so crazy how expensive even Tylenol. I know. You're like, can I just go down to the pharmacy and buy my own Tylenol? I know. Jen's like, it's okay. I'll catch the baby, I guess. Oh my gosh. I almost had to leave the due date group that I'm in because, not because anyone did anything wrong, but because of so many of the stories that are coming through that like just broke my heart. Like there was this one story that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I heard it. I guess, hey Avery, apparently there was a student doctor there to catch the baby, and the on-call OB was standing behind the student doctor, and the student doctor did not catch the baby, and the baby fell and hit its head on the floor as it was being born. And like hearing that, I almost threw up. Like I was like, just in pure shock. I was like, the fact that that's even a possibility, like why is there not a mattress on the floor under the thing in case you drop them? Like if that's gonna be a possibility, like I was in, like my baby had already been born. The nurse and doctor came in, I was mentally prepping myself. That's amazing, Jen. Jen, you're braver than I could be. Like my baby had already been born. If I had read that story before my baby was born, I would have forced them to put a mattress on the floor. That's the kind of anxiety I would have had. Luckily, she was already born when I read the story, and so instead I just like hold her tighter. But like literally worst nightmare, Avery. That's exactly correct. I was like, I felt like I was gonna throw up just reading the story. Like that poor mom, can you even fathom what she went through mentally? Literally, Naisa, literally I would have done that if I had read the story before she was born. Me too, Kimberly. I didn't even think of that as an option. This woman was telling this story, and like, God bless her, like you have to get your story out, otherwise you just hold it inside. So I'm not judging her for telling her story at all. But I literally almost threw up reading it. I did give birth, and my baby is cuddling with her dad, so she's fine. But this other woman's baby had to be in the NICU for like who knows how long. Oh, just like, There are reasons that babies have to go to the NICU that are unhelpable, like you can't get around certain things. This one was avoidable. This one was avoidable. So anyway, let's read now that we have broken all of our hearts, or I've broken everybody's heart by telling that story. I have the hiccups. Seriously, Kimberly, can you imagine? I don't know if I'd be able to stay in that profession. I think if I did that, I don't know that I would survive that mentally. The guilt would destroy me. I don't have it in me. I'm not that person. I don't have that, like, get up and go. That's why I'm not a doctor, even though all my parents are. Like, I have 4 parents, you guys. I don't know all of them. I only know 2 of them, but I had 4 parents and all 4 of them were doctors. I obviously missed that gene. Yeah. I can't imagine being that student. I have nothing. Let's just read, because I don't even know how to talk about that. It just like blows my mind. It's beyond lesson learned. It's trauma. That's correct. You finished my book. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the silliness of it all, and the heartwarming parts of it. Okay, we are reading chapter 19 today. Let's get into it. Chapter 19. Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell the truth, reveal all. A spell to see, requiring a mirror and a borrowed belonging. Beatrice Belladonna expects despair to hurt, but it doesn't feel much like anything. She thinks of Jonah in the belly of the whale and little red witch inside the wolf, and wonders if either of them felt, well, a little relieved to be eaten, to be taken away from the world and permitted to curl into the suffocating blackness, alone. Beatrice sleeps. She dreams of locked cells and spun silver, of white snakes and black towers, and wakes sweating in the stale heat of midday. She wills herself back to sleep, staring at the pulsing dark of her own eyelids until she slips into a dazed, dreamless place. The next time she wakes, the attic is all slanting shadows and twilt windows, and Miss Cleopatra Quinn is sitting at the end of her bed. Beatrice is abruptly aware that her left cheek is sticky with spittle, and that she's wearing her oldest and most mortifying night dress, the one with the little bonneted ducks embroidered at the collar. I believe it's in the story, it's a kiss that wakes Snow White from her sleep, but I've always found that to be a little presumptuous. Quinn's voice is light, but her eyes on Beatrice are heavy with worry. I tried to visit your office at the library today. Beatrice licks her sleep-gummed lips. Oh, it's not my office anymore. So I was made to understand, she adds after a pause. I am sorry. The next pause is much longer. It's emptier. The interior of Beatrice's skull feels dim and cobwebbed, like a closet she prefers not to open. Quinn strokes the brim of her derby hat in her lap. The Post reports 5 arrests. Frankie, Gertrude, Jenny, and the oldest Domanovich girl, all of whom are charged with, well, general mayhem, the promotion of sin, and public witchcraft. Juniper has, well, additional charges, of course. As far as I can tell, most of the girls were shipped 4 miles south to the women's workhouse, well, except Jenny, I just can't seem to find her, and Juniper, who's in the deeps. Spittle is totally a gross word. I totally agree. Beatrice wonders vaguely what Quinn expects her to do with this report. Cry, perhaps, but even crying seems messy and troublesome compared to the clean relief of sleep. Quinn continues in a clipped professional voice. Your sister's trial is set for the middle of next week, but the deeps are not a healthful place to linger, and the solstice is the day after tomorrow. I don't think we can afford to wait. Beatrice lets this rattle through the cobwebby closet of her brain for a little while before asking cautiously, Wait? To retrieve your sister from the custody of the New Salem Police Department, Quinn clarifies. To rescue her. It takes far too long for Beatrice to recognize the rusty, bitter sound coming from her mouth as a laugh. You and Miss Araminta
assured me that it was too late, and then when I asked you about it, you sent me home like a schoolgirl. Now you're proposing some kind of daring rescue? Small, pitying lines appear between Quinn's brows. Well, as I recall, we were merely discouraging you from visiting the Hall of Justice and asking if they would give your sister back pretty please. None of us would leave your sister, or any daughter of ours, to rot in the deeps if we could help it. Beatrice scoots herself upright, her muscles cramped from an entire day spent stubborn in sleep, no longer caring about her mortifying night dress. All right, she still cares. But we can't help it. We have no legal recourse. We have no financial recourse. I'm no longer even employed. No witching is sufficient enough to sway a jury or dig a tunnel or disappear a woman from a locked cell. Bella makes a hopeless gesture at the room around her. I would like to save my sister, even knowing what she did, what she is, but it's not possible. The pity in Quinn's face turns tart. Oh, very true, Beatrice. So you don't think it's time we consider the impossible? I don't... Oh, for saint's sake, woman. Quinn swats at her blanketed legs with her derby hat. Get out of bed. Use whatever remains of your common sense there are. All summer we've been inching closer to the thing that could turn the world upside down, that could possibly give us back what we lost and make the impossible possible again. Hope flutters in Beatrice's chest. Broken winged, it hurts far more than despair. But our theories are so tenuous. They're merely moonbeams. Quinn swats at her again. They are perfectly scholarly, considered, documented, and based on reliable sources. Children's stories, nursery rhymes, nothing respectable and nothing verifiable. Must a thing be bound and shelved in order for it to matter? Some stories were never written down. Some stories were passed by whisper and song from mother to daughter to sister. Bits and pieces were lost over centuries. I'm sure the details shifted, some of them, but not all of them. Quinn stands pacing. Towers and roses, maiden's blood, crone's tears, mother's milk. Would you really deny your own discoveries? Surely you are not such a coward. Oh, I assure you I am. You aren't. But even if I agree with you about the ways, we don't have all the words. Bella turns her hands, palms up, a gesture of surrender. We don't even have my notes anymore. She's interrupted by a polite tap on the door, a polite, familiar voice. Miss Eastwood? I'm so sorry for the lateness of the hour, but you left your notebook at the library, and I thought I ought to return it. There's a brief silence while Quinn's eyebrows climb and Beatrice peels out of her sheets and tugs a robe over her horrible nightdress. Henry? Beatrice kicks aside the line of salt and unbolts her door to find Mr. Blackwell blinking affably on the stairs. In his hand, he holds a small, shabby-looking black-bound leather book. Beatrice snatches it and strokes the familiar pleats and the crack of the spine. Oh, thank you. I thought it would be confiscated by the authorities in light of the accusations leveled against me. Beatrice recalls herself and she adds, not that the accusations are true. Actually, they're quite false. Are they? Mr. Blackwell asks mildly. Beatrice is blinking her way towards some confused combination of denial and confession when Miss Quinn steps into view at her shoulder. No, although I don't think our Beatrice has been holding Congress with demons. Do you, sir? Ah, Miss Quinn, a pleasure. Mr. Blackwell looks distinctly unsurprised to see Quinn in Beatrice's room. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, ladies. I only wanted to return the book. Beatrice clutches it tightly to her chest, and to wish you both the best of luck. With what? Beatrice asks. Well, Mr. Blackwell gives a slightly embarrassed cough. With, calling back the last ways of Avalon, I presume. It occurs to Beatrice that she's gone slightly mad. Surely she did not actually hear Mr. Henry Blackwell, the head of special collections, a possessor of tufty ear hair and a rather grand collection of bow ties, wish her luck with the restoration of witchcraft? Quinn reaches over her shoulder to pull the door wider. Why don't you come in and have a seat, Mr. Blackwell? Mr. Blackwell sits at Beatrice's wobbly kitchen table, not looking at Beatrice's robe or nightdress, and smiling politely at his own thumbs instead. Did you overhear us? Oh, come now, Miss Eastwood. He scoffs gently. I approved all your requests for material. I loaded the carts myself and wheeled them off to your office and scratched them out of the log afterward. Witch tales and folklore, Old Salem and Avalon, every instance of significant magic after the Georgian Inquisition, I put the pieces together myself. Good morning, Isabella. He transfers his polite smile over to Beatrice. I may not be a witch, Miss Eastwood, but I am a tolerable librarian. Something in Beatrice's face, the numb of a creep of betrayal, compels him to add an even more gently, I've not told a soul, and I don't intend to. My ancestors broke with the church after they witnessed the atrocities of the First Purge. My own grandmother harbored witches who fled Old Salem and slaves who fled from the Old South. My mother would return from the grave to haunt me forever if I did not at least offer you my assistance now, such as it is. Truly less easy, Quinn had advised her. Trust less easily, Quinn had advised her previously, but Beatrice has never learned how. Yeah, we're trying to save my sister, and we don't know how. She's locked in the deeps, facing trial for murder by witchcraft. Mr. Blackwell makes a considering sort of face. And did she? Murder someone, I mean. I don't know, Beatrice lies, and then she adds, probably. Even quieter, she says, yes, I do think she did. Was it a necessary act or just an act? I don't know. She thinks of her daddy's charming smile and red eyes and the iron squeal of the cellar hinges. Yes? Mr. Blackwell nods genially at his own knuckles. As a man of God, I disapprove, but as a mere man, well, I do wonder sometime where the first witch came from, if perhaps Adam deserved Eve's curse. His smile twists. If behind every witch is a wronged woman. Beatrice is too busy staring at him to object when Quinn slides the black leather book out of her grasp and opens it to a page of signatures beneath the heading, The Sisters of Avalon. Quinn produces a pen and adds 3 words to the bottom of the page before sliding it across the table to Mr. Blackwell. If there's still room, if you'd like to join and become a formal member, Quinn says. Oh, how generous of you. That is, I wouldn't like to intrude. Beatrice notes with some astonishment that Mr. Blackwell's ears have gone pink with delight. No, not at all, she murmurs. The more the merrier. And with that sensation, she's experiencing something very vivid, an unlikely dream. Beatrice now guides Mr. Blackwell and Miss Quinn through their oaths and inducts them to whatever remains of the Sisters of Avalon. Quinn does not flinch or hesitate as she crosses her heart. Her eyes on Beatrice are a pair of promises, the brightest of gold. In the quiet that follows, Mr. Blackwell says, So, there is, I assume, some sort of reason you haven't snapped your fingers and called the Lost Way in order to save your sister. Beatrice tugs her robe tighter around her shoulders, feeling tired and shabby and not at all like someone who could restore the ancient power of witching or stage a daring rescue. Well, we have the will and at least some of the guesses about the way, but we're still missing the words. She flipped through her black notebook, trailing her fingers over the rhyme as if it might sprout extra lines and verses. We've looked into every book of witch tales and every children's song book and every scrap relating to Old Salem. If the words ever existed, they are well and truly lost now. Mr. Blackwell does not look especially displeased to be faced with an unsolvable puzzle. He looks like a man who's receiving an early birthday gift. Well, you know what they say. If you want to find something lost, you ought to look where you last found it. He beams across the table. Ladies, I do have a suggestion. It's a scene break, but I just want to say, I love that Mr. Blackwell's like all in on this. He's like an old little librarian dude who's like, I'll help you guys. Sure, why not? Not all men are bad. It's been a long while since Agnes felt lonely. When she first came to New Salem, the loneliness was like a cold shackle around her ankle, weighing her steps, tugging her back, but in time she stopped feeling the weight of it, and now she can almost hear the clank and the drag of chains at her heels as she paces. Her room at South Sybil is still unnaturally large and full of ghostly echo of women laughing and teasing and whispering to one another. That's right, librarians are down for the revolution. That's right, let's go. The more you read, the more you're down for the revolution. I believe that. Her pace is interrupted by sometimes tenuous taps on the door and whispers of Hyssop. Girls who want to know when the next meeting will be and if Juniper's all right and if Agnes knows any good curses for Hill's men who prowl the city with their badges brass on their chests. Agnes ought to tell them to burn their gowns and forget about witching forever. but the words catch in her throat like stale bread. It's the way the girls look at her, scared, but not quite scared away, still hungry and hopeful, or maybe it's just the glow in their eyes when they say Juniper's name. She tells them to go home, to lie low. She lets them keep their hope a little while longer, and they leave her alone. Except she's not really alone. She never is now. She whispers to her daughter as she walks, and snatches of songs and half-forgotten rhymes, promises she knows she can't keep. "It'll right. It'll be all right," she whispers. "I'll keep you safe." In the deepening gray of the second evening, her pacing is interrupted by 3 bold thuds at the door and a man's voice. "Hello? Hyssop?" Only one man knew that word, so Agnes doesn't move. Mr. August Lee knocks on the door again. "Miss Eastwood? Agnes?" A slight pause. "I see your shoes in the hall." She moves stiffly to the door and opens it a slim, miserly crack. August's haystack hair is standing on end. His eyes are wide with relief. "Oh, thank the saints. Your name wasn't in the paper, but I just wasn't sure whether..." He trails away in the face of her hollow stare. "May I come in?" He holds up a greasy, blotched newspaper, and Agnes catches the hot smell of gravy and meat. She steps away from the door and settles herself on the edge of her bed. She's swallowing the sniveling gratitude in her throat. A strong woman wouldn't cry just because someone was worried about her. August fetches a tin plate and unwraps the newspaper to reveal a pair of folded hand pies, still hot. He hands them to her, and she doesn't cry about that either, or mention that she hasn't eaten anything but boiled eggs and cold coffee for 2 days now. She doesn't think any man has ever brought her hot pies, ever thought of her body as a thing to be taken care of, rather than merely taken. He hovers uncertainly until she takes a bite and makes an involuntary animal noise somewhere between a growl and a groan, and then a crooked smile flicks over his face and he sits beside her, maybe slightly too close. I should have come earlier. I'm so sorry, Agnes." His tone, the tone of his voice, and the angle of his body tells her that he would quite like to put his arm around her, so Agnes stiffens. "Well, I'm all right." It's not. She's not all right. She's hungry and heartsick, haunted by the slack line that once led to Juniper, and she can't seem to make herself wash her sister's blood from her hand. But the concern in August's voice makes her teeth hurt like too sweet tea. "I should have gone with you, or stopped you from going altogether." What makes you think you could have stopped us?" Agnes hears the chill in her own voice, trying half-heartedly to warm it. "It wouldn't have mattered if you were there. They were waiting for us." He shakes his head. "One of your sisters must have blabbed." The chill returns to her voice, doubled in its absence. "They didn't." "Well, maybe they didn't mean to, but you know how girls gossip." The chill quadruples then. "They didn't," she says again. "Because if they did, their own tongue would have split in two, and as the words left their lips, the whole city would have known who they are as a snake." August blinks at her, eyes round and boyish. "But how? I mean, the oath." His hand makes a concerned gesture toward his own lips, as if he'd like to check the condition of his tongue. "Good morning. Are we hungry?" No, we're just gonna hang out. Oh, you have coffee. You want your coffee? You want me to grab it for you?
Yeah.
You got it? Good morning, sweet girl. Hi, my princess.
Some pictures to show you.
Oh, I can't wait to see pictures.
It's very cute.
Are we the cutest girl who ever lived? I think so. The oath. His hand makes a concerned gesture toward his own lips, as if he'd like to check the condition of his own tongue. He recovers with visible effort. "Well, still, I do wish that I'd been there to protect you." He looks at her through the pale haze of his own lashes, warm and handsome, and perhaps a little expectant. She says nothing. The longer that she says nothing, the more troubled his look becomes, like an actor whose leading lady is departing from her script and refusing to play her part. Now is the moment she's supposed to fall weeping into his arms. She's supposed to be distraught and delicate and undone. She's supposed to be able to be comforted in her hour of need and in her gratitude. She's supposed to be, well, who knows? Agnes imagines leaning close and sinking her teeth into his lips, biting until the taste of blood overcame the taste of tears on her own tongue. She'd been so taken by him, so seduced by the admiration in his eyes, but she should have known no man ever loved a woman's strength. They only loved the place where the strength runs out. They love a strong will finely broken. They love a straight spine that's been bent. Are we okay?
We have hiccups.
We have hiccups? My
That's
sweet
sad about
angel.
them.
Yeah, I understand. Hiccups not fun.
Come here.
It's not fun to have the hiccups, is it, sweet
Well,
angel?
We don't like the blind light in our eyes.
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, sweetheart. Does she want to eat?
Well, no, I don't. I think she's probably fine. She isn't trying to.
She's not trying to, like.
She's just annoyed with the light right here,
Oh,
and then in her eyes, and
That's
then
fair.
also, annoyed
That's
with the
fair.
hiccups.
Here, I'll move this.
We changed the diaper, and we got hiccups from it.
That does happen. Yes, yes, yes. Well, you guys are very cute. August's hand moves to cover hers on the bed and she pulls away. I think you should leave. Her voice is so far past cold it might qualify as glacial. What did I mean, why? He recoils, his face so baffled and hurt that a familiar fear brews in her belly. Will he leave when she asks, or will he linger, wheedling and wanting? She wets dry lips and wishes for a pocketful of nettles. Get out. He does, pausing only for a sorry-looking dip of his head. Agnes sighs shaky relief. She carries her plate back to the table. It's only as she reaches for the newspaper to wrap the remains of her pies that she sees the face staring up at her from the front page. Sharp teeth, wild eyes, a doubled trail of dark ink running from her nose, a stranger's fist snarled in her hair, baring her throat before the camera like an animal before a knife. It's Juniper. Yeah, we actually asked the doctor about the hiccups yesterday, and she said that they weren't related to any tummy issues or anything because of when they happen. They don't ever happen when she's eaten. So the doctor said it's probably just like her brain learning to work through it and not to give her anything because of the timing. Like if she was getting hiccups after a meal, it would be like a thing, you know? But we did ask about that yesterday because she does get them. But actually eating makes them go away, which is funny. Juniper sleeps. At first, her dreams are all witch tales and towers, but then they're simply home. The honeysuckle's taste of the air, the undersea shadows of the woods in midsummer, the hollow boom of thunder on the far side of the mountain, and the clean, clear taste of creek water on her tongue. She didn't know that cleanness had a taste before she came to New Salem and saw the Thorn sludging past, its waters clotted with gray froth and refuse. Now the water seeps from the stone walls of her cell and trickles into her dreams. She's standing in Mama Mags's house now, the light prisming through the rows of mason jars, the smell of witching on her tongue. Mags is there. Her hair is its usual nest of bone-colored bracken, her eyes like river stones. She's asking Juniper a question. The locket, girl. Where is my locket? Cold and grease-slicked, rising fast, Juniper's ankles are covered in that water, and she wakes. For a bleary second, she thinks her own dreams woke her, or maybe the furtive splishing and rippling from live things in the shadows of the cell. But then she sees the glow, the lantern light growing brighter. Someone is coming down the steps. Her heart clangs against her ribs. They can't be back yet. The hours run strangely in the deep, but Juniper can tell by the weight of silence above her that it is very late and it's long before dawn. Surely she has more time, but the light swells like a scream. Someone is coming. She isn't ready. The first time 2 officers held her arms while a third delivered timid, random blows to her body, seeming half afraid that she would transform into a serpent or a harpy. They asked her questions. Who were your co-conspirators? Where did they meet? And when had she last lain with the devil? And it seemed that they were spooked by her silence. The second time, they brought a professional with them. It was an expressionless man in a leather apron who did not seem afraid of her at all. He placed a finger against the iron collar around her throat, and he whispered a word, and then he merely waited while the iron grew hotter and hotter, steaming in the damp, drawing lines of red blisters around her neck. He stopped only when she begged him to. He left without asking her any questions at all. The cooked meat smell of her own flesh lingered for a long time. Oh, poor Juniper. The lamplight rounds the final turn of the stairs and boots slosh in ankle-deep water. A face moves towards her, glowing pale in the darkness of the deeps. It's Gideon Hill. alone except for the dog walking like a collared shadow beside him. He stops outside her cell, lantern raised in one hand, watery eyes watching her. She looks back at him, slouched purposefully back against the damp stone of the wall, arranging her bad leg across the rusted iron of the bed frame. You gave me a scare, she drawls. For a second, I thought you were somebody important. She expects him to snarl or spit or curse at her as a sinner. But she can't figure out why else a city councilman would be ruining his suit in the fetid darkness of the deeps. He laughs then. It's a genuine laugh, low and appreciative, and it sends a chill prickling down Juniper's spine like a warning. Well, excuse my delay. It's so difficult to make time to visit the condemned, especially during the middle of a campaign. His voice is fuller than she remembered. It's round and rich. Maybe it's just the echo of the walls around them. She crosses her arms behind her head, speaking to the sagging ceiling. It's rude to come calling after supper. My daddy taught me that. It was a concerned presence of your jailers that... I was concerned that the presence of your jailers might inhibit your honesty, and I wanted to be able to speak more frankly with you. Yeah, well, frankly, Miss Dale... Juniper does not look away from the ceiling. She doesn't change her tone in the slightest. You can go fuck yourself. Another low laugh, and then a sibilant mutter too soft to hear, and the clink of a tugged leash. Juniper startles at the sudden sloshing of boots beside her. Gideon Hill and his dog are standing inside her cell. The door remains closed and locked behind them, and Juniper feels the fine hair of her arm standing on end. All the scathing swagger drains from her. He draws so close that she can smell the fresh moonlight on his suit and feel the heat of his hound's breath against her bare skin. He smiles down at her. It isn't the craven, cringing smile that she remembers from the Women's Association, or even the hearty, false one that beams from 1,000 campaign posters. This is the smile of all canine and red gums. It seems to be stolen from someone else entirely. Juniper would very much like to know who. You girls have done very well. Juniper wants to write the word girls on a ribbon and then strangle him with it. You choose nice, visible subjects, ideal for stirring up a fuss. It will cost the city a considerable sum to replace that statue of St. George, by the way. Are hiccups okay?
Our hiccups are okay. We might actually be hungry.
We're hungry? Okay. Why don't we take an intermission, and then we will feed the baby, and then we will come back and we will read some more. I will be back. I will send a message right before I come back on. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Well, plan to come back on in like no more than 10 minutes.